we're cranking up the volume. Not on guitars, but on grinders and welders. This is heavy metal art in its purest form. From a sculptor who bends steel into emotion, to a pair of artists who make flowers bloom from cold iron, to a craftsman forging blades that are equal parts weapon and wonder, these creators prove that metal can move you just as much as music can. Let's turn it up and dive in. Mark Winter is a self-taught metal sculptor. Inspired by heavy metal music, he takes everyday objects and turns them into wild and wonderful works of art.
My name is Mark Winter. I'm a self-taught metal sculptor from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's kind of like a carnival, but you don't want your kids going by themselves. I don't think about it when I'm starting. I have nothing in my mind except heavy metal music. And the louder the better. And I just start going, and eventually they become something. And then it's more failure than success. I make shapes. I'll make random things, whether they're tubes or curls or eyeballs or lips or hands, and I put them in piles. I have piles everywhere in my studio. When those are all done, all the hard work's done, then it's time to kind of relax, and I just start grabbing, and when it works, things just come together without me even having to trying. When it's happening, if I have to throw something in the trash can, it goes in the trash can. If I were to think about it, I would miss every time. So I kind of just not think, and I just go, and it works. If you take a lawnmower and cut it in half this way, now you have a whole different thing to think about that wasn't there before. So opportunities open up just by destroying and destruction and chaos. Basically, I start with the big things and go to the small things. The collecting and the organizing is the hard part. I bend the biggest things first. I have a couple anvils that I made that are special. They have just the proper curve to them, so get things red hot, hit it with a hammer, and again, put it on the pile. And I'll just spend 2 or 3 days bending things and then tack them all together with the welder. I like to say it's a lesson in patience. And there's no wrong way, but now when I look at it, all I see is like, oh, I could have put something there or there, where it's not quite round enough there. But no one would ever say that but me, because that's crazy talk. I think art is about the mystery. That's the best part. Everyone wants to know the answer. How'd you do it? How'd you do it?
Next, we'll visit Crabtree Forge, where Dan Crabtree and Scott DeLorme use old-school tools to turn raw iron into metal flowers that are often confused for the real thing.
When I work with metal, I like to transform it into something that's lightweight looking, and that's really one of the great characteristics about working with metal, is that it's such a strong material. You can make light and airy shapes that are strong and structural.
A lot of times it is really just focused. It's focused energy. It's kind of like, you know, when you ask a musician what's going through their head when they're soloing.
Paying attention to the curves, the way that the metal's forming, it's kind of hard to explain what's actually going through my head when I'm creating something. It's almost indescribable. My name is Dan Crabtree, and I'm a blacksmith. A blacksmith works with iron. Metalsmiths work with all varieties of materials. I guess I'm a little bit of both.
My name is Scott DeLorme, and I'm a metalsmith / fabricator / welder. I work with Daniel and help him out on a lot of the bigger projects. We grew up together. We've known each other since the 5th grade.
I got into blacksmithing because I wanted to do swords and armor and medieval things. And then as I grew into it, I really found a love for the art form. I like to take a piece of flat material and form it and transform it into something that's three-dimensional and interesting. I always loved changing things. I love to work with different materials, and I guess that's when I realized I was being an artist. I never really wanted to be an artist, it just kind of happened.
You'll see how these are straight, and these look like as if they're trying to capture light. They're bending around the blossom, and that's what we want to do. We want to make it look like these leaves are actually reaching for sunlight and growing, and that makes it look even more real. It adds a little bit more time, but man, is it a good detail.
When most people see our roses, they think they're real at first. A lot of people think that we dip our roses in metal, that we take a live rose and dip it or something like that. That's not the case. When we make our roses, we start with flat bars and sheets, and we have to hammer and forge every detail into them. First thing we do, and we cut out the petals, and then we sand them down. Then I've made special dies and fixtures to put the texture in the roses, to give the petals a more lifelike look. After texturing the petals, I layer them. While they're layered, we use a TIG welder to combine all the pieces into one solid mass. Because steel doesn't transfer energy the same as other metals. If this was copper, you probably couldn't grab it out here. But since it's steel, you can hold on to it. And a piece of round bar is heated up in the forge. We hammer out the round bar to give it texture, to make it look more realistic, like a real rose. The forge heats the metal so it can be formed. Then, using a pair of pliers, I'll take the heated steel blank and form it and try to create a realistic looking rose blossom. Once the rose blossom has been formed, I then take it and clean it up and wire wheel it and add the leaves. The leaves are another process themselves. The leaves are cut out of a plate of heavy metal, about 1/8 of an inch thick. Then the leaves are heated with a torch, and using an old trip hammer, over 100 years old, we forge in the design for the leaf.
I really do enjoy metal because it's sturdy yet malleable. It's forgiving yet really stubborn. But once you get it right, then you have this frozen piece of artwork that is very delicate looking, but very strong.
The best part of being a blacksmith is it's something that I've always wanted to do ever since I was probably 14. And to have that dream become a reality where I can wake up in the morning, come to my own shop, and just create art, that's probably the best part of my job.
Finally, Nathan Bonner shows us the often unseen craft behind knife smithing. From cooking to hunting, there's no reason utility can't match beauty.
But yeah, I don't think there was ever a time that I wasn't passionate about knives. The knives sort of carry all this information in them that people just don't even understand. At face value, yeah, it's a knife. It can be used as a weapon. It can be used as a tool. I mean, it's very much just an extension of a human, which is good and bad, for better or worse. But it just carries so much information in history, you know, to religion, to cultural differences, to arts, to science, math, metallurgy. The history of the world is in that knife if you look hard enough. I appreciate the craft of it, you know, and when you say craft, it's kind of split up because there's some rules that you have to follow. There's math and science you can't ignore to get a performance, you know, that you should be getting out of these knives. And then the other side of it is just pure art. As far as the knives I make and the knives that influence me, they are definitely, without a doubt, works of art. But as much as I can, I try to work it like a kitchen. You know, I have stations in here, and I'm kind of working each station by myself and just sort of trying to do as many tasks that are the same as I can at a time. To get this bar, essentially, we're taking a few different metals and, in so few words, sandwiching them together. So we have alternating layers. If you look really closely, you can see there's hundreds of layers. We're gonna do this reverse tip and close this up. We're gonna make what's called a bird's beak and then close it. And that's gonna make both these black bars come to a point and outline our Damascus. We're starting with a big chunk of metal, and we're gonna move and shape that metal into a knife. What we're doing is we're getting this metal very, very hot, and we're going to be close to forge welding temperatures because the bars that we're going to be forging, which is essentially moving the metal, we're going to be using different tools, be using a hand hammer, a power hammer, a hydraulic press. The hydraulic press, for example, is 17 tons. If you can imagine how many cars you'd have to stack up to get the weight of 17 tons, that's how much weight is coming down on this knife. I like having endless possibilities now, where I'm not just stuck to the parameters of a bar of steel. I can start with a round ball, I can start with a big square, a rectangle, and I can use different metals that normally would be really, really, really hard to find or impossible because I'm forge welding my own metal. So yeah, it just opens a lot of doors. It all boils down to what you're passionate about. Some people are really into hunting, they want to make hunting knives. Great. You know, I come from a culinary background, and you know, buying a new kitchen knife was always just such a source of joy for me that that's the direction I go in. I guess my interest in knives is just, it never is filled. And the more that I look at it, it's just the deeper you go down that rabbit hole. And to me, there's like this magical sort of thing that comes with someone making it with their own two hands, which I think, you know, when you can make something that looks machined, that you did with these guys, like that's where the magic is. There is a lot of bad knife making on the internet, and a lot of stuff that doesn't even really work. A lot of things that are done just for the video, the content, you know, the likes. You know, who cares if it's a good knife? And there's so much of that now that's why I recommend, you know, people either take classes from good respected knife makers that have been trained by other good respected knife makers, or, you know, take classes through the ABS or a metal school or a welding school. Hi, I'm Nate Bonner, and I'm a knife maker.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. If you love art as much as we do, don't forget to subscribe. And if you love history, hey, check out our sister channel, Who Else Loves History? Remember, slow down. Art appreciates that.